Greetings, booktubers, and welcome back to Grammaticus Books, where today we're going to be ranking the top 5 military science fiction powered armor novels of all time. Now, these are the top 5 powered armor novels as determined by me, Grammaticus, here on the channel. But when I put these 5 books up here that I'm putting up for contention for ranking of the best power armor novels of all time, I think you'll agree they'd be on anybody's top 10 list, and they certainly deserve consideration for being the big dogs on the block and being in numbers 1 through 5. So what led me to do this? Well, when I look back on my recent videos, my recent reads of science fiction, I realized that I had been focusing on military science fiction in general and all these powered armor books in particular. And that got me thinking, which is always a dangerous thing, that wouldn't it be interesting to try to come up with a ranking system to figure out where they stood parallel to each other or compared to each other, as which one was best and which one was second, third, fourth, and fifth, and see if we could come up with a method to determine that. And I think I have. But first, let me show you the 5 books that I'm putting into as the top 5 in this category. And whichever one gets ranked 4th or 5th, these are not bad books. Keep in mind, these are the top 5 powered armor novels of all time. So they're already classics, pardon me. They're already great. But we're just going to try to take those top 5 and see if we can figure out who's the top dog. So the novels that we're going to be looking at are Robert A. Heinlein, Starship Troopers from 1959. You got to have Robert A. Heinlein on here. You got to lead off with it too. It's the novel that kicked it all off, that started the entire genre back in 1959. So that's definitely on the top 5 list. The second book that we're looking at is Armor by John Steakley from 1984. It's a book that I affectionately refer to as Starship Troopers 2.0. That's book number 2. Book number 3 is March to the Sea. Now, this is book 2 in the Epic of Man by David Weber and John Ringo, a classic series. I have book 1. I've read both of these. This is the one set of books here on this list that it's been a while since I've read them. All the other ones I've read recently, but it definitely deserves to be here in the top 5. And it is basically a science fiction retelling of the Anabasis by Xenophon, the tale of the 10,000 Greek soldiers who had to fight their way across Persia to get back home to Greece. It's a retelling of that here, and it is definitely one of the top military sci-fi epics of all time, and definitely centers around power armor as well. So it's on the list at number 3. Number 4, now this one might be a little controversial, but I say it deserves to be in here, and I've got some outside backing on it that I'll bring in later, and that is Horus Rising, which is the first in the Horus Heresy series. It's by Dan Abnett, 2006, published by the Black Library, which is Games Workshop. And this is the book that kicks off the Space Marines in the Fall from Grace, Paradise Lost, and the Horus Heresy of the Space Marines Odyssey for 40,000, Warhammer 40,000. It's a really good book. And again, it has some outside support for being here for consideration in the top 5. So that's number 4. And that leaves another giant on the field here of power armor books, and that is The Forever War by Joe Haldeman, 1974, an absolutely fantastic novel. And that is the number 5 book to round out our contenders here for this contest. Now, aside from March to the Sea, which is by John Ringo and David Weber, I've read all these books very recently. I've done videos on all these books very recently. I encourage you to go down and check those out and see what those videos are like as well. But so what are the criteria that we're going to use here in order to rank these novels, in order to determine which one's on top and which one's down at number 5? We're going to look at 2 different categories, and then we're going to assign a rank to that category, which will correspond to a number, and then we'll tally up our numbers for these 2 categories, and then tally them up and see who's on top and who's on the bottom. And the first category we're going to look at is going to be originality of concept and depth of concept. So how original is that author's power armored idea? And then how well and how much depth does he flesh that out in his novel? How well does he tie it into a military system? How well does he go into the actual execution of the concept and the physical workings of the power armor itself? So that will be category number 1. Category number 2 is just going to be sheer entertainment. Which of these novels was just fun to read? Which one of these authors was able to take that powered armored suit concept, put it into a great plot that just was entertaining to read from a military science fiction perspective as a reader, and made it an enjoyable book? from that perspective. And again, we'll rank those 1 through 5. And whoever gets ranked 1 will receive 5 points for each category. 2 will get you 4 points. 3 will get you 3 points. Ranking number 4 will get you 2 points. And if you come in last at 5, that scores you 1 point. And we'll do that for both the categories, total them up, and then we'll see how that ranks out these 5 books. So that's it. These are the books. Let's get started with them and go through the ranking. So we're starting off, you got to start off with Starship Troopers. You got to start off with the seminal book, Patient Zero here, for the powered armored concept back in 1959 by Robert A. Heinlein, the Grand Master. So for the originality of concept and depth of concept, this is obviously going to be number 1. It's the book, after all, that actually created the genre. So you have to rank it number 1. I don't think that's going to be very controversial to anybody at all. So it gets 5 points for number 1 on originality and depth of concept. But what about entertainment? On entertainment, I actually ranked this one down at number 4. And the reason I ranked this all the way down at number 4 is because the entire middle section of this book, about 80% of this book, is actually not about the powered armored and the military science fiction aspect of it. It's a giant political treatise and discourse by Robert A. Heinlein on politics. And for that reason, that bumps it down to number 4 on the entertainment value, which scores it 2 points in that category. So that's the number 1 book, Starship Troopers ranked. Moving on to, let's change it up. Let's change up our order here. And we're going to go to The Forever War by Joe Haldeman for the second book that we're going to look at. Joe Haldeman, 1974. It's semi-autobiographical of his experience in Vietnam. So for originality of concept with the power armored, for depth of concept with the power armored, I rank this book here, The Forever War, at 3. So number 3 will score it 3 points for originality of concept. But what about entertainment with this book? This book is highly entertaining. I've got a full video on it. I highly encourage you to check it out. It is an excellent, excellent book about future shock, military warfare in the future, about the psychological harm of being in an extended war that is impacted on all the soldiers here that are using the power armor in this book. And for that reason, I rank this number 2 for entertainment, which scores at 4 points in that category. So that's our second book there, Joe Haldeman's The Forever War, which brings us to the controversial book here in our top 5, and that is Horus Rising by Dan Abnett, the Warhammer 40,000 Horus Heresy novel that kicks off that Horus Heresy series. This is an excellent book. It's very fun to read. And like I said, there is some support from outside for this to legitimize it being in this top 5 list. And that outside support is actually Goodreads. Goodreads did a top 100 power armor novel rankings of all time on the Goodreads site. And this novel is included in there. And I think you'll be shocked to see where it falls in that top 100. I've also read this book. I gave it a full review. It's an excellent book. So where does it stand for originality of concept and for depth of concept? Well, for originality, it's basically just a ripoff. It is a ripoff of Starship Troopers. The Space Marines in here are basically just taken directly out of Starship Troopers, but they do go into a tremendous amount of detail in how that power armor works in this Warhammer universe and into the uses of it and its military integration into the Empire of Man. And for that reason, I don't put it down at number 5. I think that bumps it up 1. And for originality of concept and depth of concept, the depth saves it a little bit and brings it in at number 4 and scores it 2 points in that category. But how does it do in the entertainment value system? I rank this one number 1. I think it is by far the most military entertainment value for your money out of these 5 books. It is a fantastically fun book to read, and the first 4 in this Horus series are fantastic as well. So it does score number 1 on my list for entertainment value, which earns it 5 points in that category. So that's the third book. The fourth book that I'm reviewing is the Epic of Man series by David Weber and John Ringo. This is March to the Sea. The first one was March Up Country, which I owned and have read. It's been a long time. I lost Up Country somewhere far back in the mists of time. It has disappeared from my library. I need to get it in here, put it in here. But David Weber and John Ringo, they're the masters of military science fiction. That's their specialty. That's what they specialize in. It's their little nook of science fiction realm, their genre, and they do an excellent job with it. And this is one of their most popular series, The Epic of Man. And it's a great book. It's a great series of book. I believe there are 4 total. Let me check that real quick. Yep, March Up Country is number 1. You got March to the Sea number 2 here, then March to the Stars, and then We Few and The Epic of Man. So for originality of concept on this book here, and for depth of concept, I rank this one actually at the bottom. And the reason I rank it there, and it might be getting a little bit of a knock just because it's been so long since I've read this one, and the other books are more fresh in my memory, having just read them. But the reason I put it at number 5 is the power armored suits in these novels, in this series of novels. They don't feature as heavily or as strongly as they do in the other novels that I've gone through so far, or in the one that comes after this. So for that reason, it went down to number 5. The emphasis is far more on military tactics and them fighting their way across the planet of Marduk, where they've been stranded. So it ranks 5, in my opinion, there on originality and depth of concept. But where does it come in on entertainment? On entertainment value, I give it a solid 3. It's very good military science fiction. It's what David Weber and John Ringo do, and they do it very well. So I give it a solid 3, which scores it another 3 points in that category. And that leaves us to our last book that we're going to rank here, which is Armor by John Steakley, 1984. And where do I put this one for originality of concept and depth of concept? I put it at number 2. So it gets ranked number 2 out of 5 for originality and depth of concept. The originality of it obviously owes a huge debt to Starship Troopers, but it takes that Starship Troopers concept, it puts its own twist on it, and you get a lot of Felix, the main character, and his unit, his scout armor suit that he has, which is different in much its own unique sort of style that Steakley puts on it, that really kind of separates it pretty well from Starship Troopers and puts his own imprint on it, and he makes it his own. He also goes into a much different level of depth with it in terms of his concept and execution and how it fits into the military system and this war on Banshee, where most of this book takes place. So for that reason, I do rank it 2nd for originality of concept and depth of concept. Where does it come in for entertainment value? For entertainment value, I actually ranked this one last. I put it at number 5. And I know a lot of people like this book, but the reason I put it at number 5 is because the entire center section of this book goes away from Felix. It goes away from the powered armored fighters of the future here on Banshee, where the war is taking place against the ants. And it goes into the character Jack Crow, and it is completely separate. And it's actually, in my opinion, an unnecessary diversion away from the military science fiction aspect of the book. And for that reason, it knocks it down, in my opinion, to number 5 on the list. But keep in mind, these are the top 5 of all time. So being ranked 5 on this list isn't necessarily a bad thing. It just means that you're not the top dog of the top dogs. So those are my rankings. Those are the numbers. How do those numbers, when you add them up, where do they put them in their overall ranking? We had 2 scores for each categories. We're going to combine those scores together, and then I'm going to reveal them in ascending order. So we're going 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So which book came in at number 5? That would be this one right here, David Weber and Johnny Ringo, and March to the Sea. It came up with a total score of 4. It had 1 point for originality, and it had 3 points for story, which gave it 4 points total, and puts it on the bottom of our list. So it's number 5. Number 4 on our list, working our way up to number 1, is Armor by John Steakley. It got a ranked 2 for originality, which gave it 4 points. And then it got ranked 5 for entertainment value, which gave it 1 point for a total of 5, which brought it in 1 point above March to the Sea by David Weber there. So that was number 4. What's number 3? Well, number 3 is actually number 2 and number 1 altogether, because these 3 books here, if you're totaling up their scores, they all scored a 7. Each one of them on their individual rankings, when you totaled them up, they each came in at 7 points, so they're tied. Now, I'm going to make a command decision here, and because this is the least known of these books, and it's from 2006, so it's not really in the vintage science fiction category. and I'm a vintage science fiction guy, I'm going to make a command decision. We're just going to arbitrarily, well, not arbitrarily, but we're going to designate this one as third place and put it down as number 3. So that brings us down to these two here. You've got the classic Forever War by Joe Haldeman, 1974, or the book that started it all, Starship Troopers by Robert A. Heinlein, 1959. They're both tied at 7. How are we going to determine which one is top? I'm going to let you guys vote. So down in the comments section, go down in the comments and vote for either Robert A. Heinlein, say I vote for Robert A. Heinlein, or vote for the Forever War by Joe Haldeman. I will tally up all the scores in about a week, and then I'll let you guys know which one of these comes out on top for the best power armored novel of all time. And I did not arrange it that way on purpose. I swear by all that's holy, that is the way it came out, quite unintentionally. But it's an excellent way to figure out which one is going to be on top. I'm going to let you guys vote. Put your vote down in the comments section and let me know. Now, I talked about that outside information about these rankings, and that Goodreads has actually done the same powered armored ranking for the top 100 of all time. So where did Goodreads powered armored rankings come out? Well, at number 1, no surprise, they had Starship Troopers there as well. At number 2, they had Armor by John Steakley. At number 3, they had March Up Country, which is The First in the Empire Man by David Weber and John Ringo. And then at number 7, in the top 10 of the top 100 from Goodreads was, whoop, the wrong book there, let me get the right book, was Horus Rising by Dan Abnett and the Black Library for Games Workshop for the Warhammer 40,000. This was ranked number 7. I've read this book. It is an excellent book. I don't disagree with that at all. And that is one of the reasons why I brought it in here for our top 5 consideration. This has been a lot of fun. I've had a lot of fun with it. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Put your comments down in the comments section below. Let me know what you think. Vote for which book you want to be number 1 or number 2. And then in about a week, we'll tally it up and figure out the score. And just one last thing, if Michael K. Bond, if you're watching, get well soon, brother. I love you to death. You've got a great channel. We're all rooting for you. And with that, I'm going to say take care, be safe, and I will catch you guys next time.